My third vlog is on the coaching process. The coaching process is a difficult thing to define. However, a few definitions can be found. Borry and Knowles, 2003, define coaching as a series of stages coaches go through to aid the athlete in learning and improving particular skills. Cross and Lyle, 2003, take this a little further with the purposeful improvement of competition sports performance achieved through a planned program of preparation and competition, and state, in normal circumstances, a coach manages this process within a time and context-bound agreement or contract, although there will be considerable variety in the implementation of the process. I will be using video analysis to reflect upon my own coaching process. Cheng and Chor, 2009, found that video-based reflection demonstrates a high level of self-reflection, and utilization of digital video for self-reflection has been shown to be relevant to learning needs, improving listening and speaking skills. Reflective practice has been widely embraced since its conception from Schoen in 1983. Lyle, 1999, suggests that improving coaching education and practice depends upon a sound understanding of the coaching process. The coaching process, as defined by Cushion, 2007, is multifaceted with a no single element, and consists of operational, dynamic, and adaptive aspects. The session I am reflecting on is a one-to-one session with fully sighted international blind goalkeeper Dan James. He has a training age of over 10 years and has been with me for 2. His program revolves around strength and power work and maximizes the transfer of his training while maintaining his exceptional injury record. This session has some new additions for this athlete and gave me the opportunity to see how I present new information to advanced athletes. The events I am going to focus on is my demonstration and communication of exercises. Many of the exercises within the session were new to this athlete. When demonstrating an exercise, my philosophy is largely based on say the most with the least, especially with high training ages. However, overcoaching and providing too much feedback is something that, as an inexperienced coach trying to impress, I have been guilty of in the past. Wolf et al., 2002, found feedback 33% of the time was superior to 100% of the time. Nick Winkelman describes the ability to focus as a limited capacity resource. As a coach, I aim to be as clear as possible in my demonstrations, pointing the spotlight at the information that is most relevant. I believe clarity is critical, and saying the most with the least. This works well with advanced athletes due to their high levels of attentional reserves. I tend to use both internal and external cueing. Research supports the use of external cueing to improve force output. However, I believe internal cueing has a place when attempting to fit the intricacies of movement. In terms of coaching style, I am adopting the practice style, defined by Mostyn and Ashworth 2002 as the coach making all the decisions but the learners progressing at their own rate, depending on the ability. However, this is not the only style I employ. I believe I utilize many other forms, such as reciprocal, self-check, and inclusion with different populations. It is important that coaches are adaptable when dealing with different populations. This is heavily influenced by age, gender, and sport. Looking at the way I instruct and demonstrate new exercises to this athlete shows plenty of good practices alongside things I can improve. Effective instruction is crucial to the pursuit of optimal sporting performance. Instruction is one of the defining roles of a coach, as we are responsible for teaching athletes the what to do and the how to do it. Hodges and Franks 2002 define instruction and demonstration as information given to the athletes by the coach at the start of practice or during practice, but independently of performance. At the beginning of this session, I am demonstrating and instructing competently. I'm showing mindfulness of the athlete's position in relation to me and maintaining engagement. I am also competently demonstrating all relevant exercises. Hodges and Franks 2002 state that demonstrations have been shown to be useful when there is a high cognitive component. It should be noted that I do not demonstrate exercises the athlete already familiar with. In simple task, Newell 1981 suggests demonstration is redundant and no new information is transmitted to the learner. However, it appears I may have overestimated my athlete's ability on this task. His performance on the running man exercise is suboptimal. This was an oversight on my part and is something that happens from time to time. I adapted the exercise to reduce the complexity of the movement. This dramatically improved his performance. Cushion, 2007, states continuity in coaching is not from stability, but adaptability. Here I have shown a good ability to adapt on the fly. I make a similar mistake later in the session when I asked the athlete to go from single rep to multi-reps without stopping on the jump squat. I believe this to be a simple task for this level of athlete. This time, I presumed the athlete would be able to perform the task without demonstration. We can see the athlete jumps back and forward instead of straight up as required. This is an explicit process. The athlete has an appreciation of the task requirements and reference to the required behavior without experience in the task. Here, I neglected the implicit need to experience the task to gain an appreciation of underlying sensory experience of the movement before applying load. I loaded the pattern too early without demonstration or practice. I did correct the pattern quickly, choosing to change its position alongside providing verbal feedback. This was a success. However, the athlete may have benefited from a demonstration and practice beforehand. Later in the session, there is a similar scenario to that of a jump squat. It's a progression on a new exercise. This differs from the running man as it is not a completely new skill. This time, I demonstrate the exercise and give the athlete appropriate cues to perform a new movement. As this movement is already a part of the athlete's movement repertoire, instructions and demonstrations have had the desired effect. The athlete still requires a rep or two to acquire the skill. However, this is natural and should be encouraged. Hodges and Franks 2002 state that coaches should allow and expect error, as variability is something that facilitates learning. The difference here is that I have provided visual as well as verbal instruction. This process has been hugely beneficial to self-reflect on what I believe that I do well, what can be improved, and why I do it. Ultimately, there is more I believe I do well than not. However, there are some key moments within the session that can be improved. The amount of exercises I am demonstrating at one time is relying solely on explicit learning and neglecting the implicit. This is something that gets worse as athletes multiply with large squads. Due to time constraints, I often end up providing too much information in one block through showing multiple exercises. Further, I rarely give the athletes chance to practice these movements before they get into the session. Although I am extremely diligent in the session to ensure good technique is acquired, this goes against my philosophy previously mentioned, saying the most with the least. This is an example of how constraints outside of coaching behaviors can affect how we coaches deliver. I need to be mindful that I can adjust my practice when coaching one-on-one as opposed to large groups. There are also many things I did well. Good positioning when coaching, voice projection was appropriate, engagement was high, problem solving and adaptability was shown, competent level of practice demonstrations, good program and organization, appropriate cueing, and use of athlete questioning when needed. A couple of models of coaching have been developed to demonstrate how we go about improving. Although these are overly simplistic to represent the coaching process in its entirety, they do provide basic framework as to how we go about improving. The key to these models, in my opinion, is the review element and how we go about that process. Upon reviewing of my own coaching, I believe the quality of my athlete's session would have been improved through a couple of changes. Allowing this athlete to build complexity more slowly, starting on a pad or the floor, rather than a BOSU on the running man's. Demonstrating just one exercise instead of 3 at that point in time would have benefited the athlete too. Within the jump squat, I should have demonstrated and allowed him to practice at a lower level with less load. As I mentioned previously, a movement that is already part of the athlete's movement repertoire will benefit from instructions and demonstrations. I need to know my audience better and use the appropriate strategy. Thank you for listening to my third vlog.